Hey, greetings there, everybody. It is GleeCon coming at you again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we read about Thrall and Cycle of Hatred coming into Northwatch, literally laying the hammer down, defeating his possessed lieutenant, and ending that skirmish. And we've just got a couple chapters to go. And we've also been doing our side journey through Dungeons and Dragons, World of Warcraft. So stay a while and listen as we continue with the second chapter of Lands of Mystery, covering how this campaign setting looks for Central Kalimdor, and we're going to cover the Stonetalon Mountains right now. It has a population of 6,000, which is not that much, mostly goblin, but sizable amounts of Night Elf, Tauren, and then some harpies and trolls as well. It's a contested area, so that means for our purposes, both factions quest there. Stonetalon's peak remains verdant and lush, but much of the remainder of the region has been deforested or otherwise destroyed. Certain parts of the land are now the homes of elementals, harpies, and other deadly creatures. The largest danger to the peak, however, is from goblins. The venture company gradually destroys the remaining trees and takes the remaining resources from the earth. If this process continues, Stonetalon could soon become as much a wasteland as Desolace in the south or the Barrens in the east. Druids and shamans take a firm stand here, doing what they can to stop the destruction of nature, but the difficulties between the Alliance and the Horde prevent the Night Elves and the Tauren from working together effectively to halt the goblin operations. Many of the Tauren still hold the unrealistic hope that the venture company can be reasoned with, and this belief prevents progress. Now, nowadays, Stonetalon is mostly like a war zone between Alliance and Horde. Not PvP per se, but it's one of the zones that got a big revamping, and now it's just a battle between Alliance and Horde. People and culture. The goblins of Stonetalon are among the finest engineers of their race, and their inventions have allowed them to remove massive chunks of the forest in a few short months. The endeavor draws ire from the Night Elves and Tauren alike, who find the deforestation barbaric and dangerous. The Night Elves take shelter on Stonetalon Peak, maintaining that refuge with the help of dryads and keepers of the grove. While the majority of the Tauren take a similar defensive role, the Grim Totem tribe strikes back against the goblins. Rumors persist that the Grim Totems appear to take extreme measures to rid the goblins from their land, including the use of Forsaken-made toxins. Clearly, if these toxins are misused, they could cause as much damage as the goblins. For all the intelligence the goblins possess, they have yet to understand politics, and this is true on an internal level as well as with the outside world. The trade princes have recently caused problems for the venture company, and it is looking increasingly likely that the goblins will turn on each other soon. And geography. The Stonetalon Mountains lie along the western coast of Kalimdor, south of Ashenvale, and north of Desolace and Mulgore. The most frequently used entrance to the mountains, however, is a path from the Barrens in the east, and that's where I came from. The mountains were at one time filled with lush forests, but the venture company's expeditions and mining operations changed much of the landscape to dusty, barren canyons and desolate cliffs. The only region of the mountains that retains its former splendor is the peak itself, which is protected by the Night Elves. There is a large river, the Blood Fury, as well as two large lakes, Merkfallen and Cragpool. Cragpool Lake. This lake is located just northwest of Windshear Crag at the head of the Black Wolf River. The site is dominated by a massive venture company water wheel, accessible only by a tower of rickety scaffolding. Sites and settlements. The goblin-dominated mountains have few major settlements, but the Night Elves, Tauren, Trolls, and Harpies each claim a small share of the land. There is the Charred Vale. Charred Vale was once a tranquil and verdant section of forest, but in recent times a number of fire and earth elementals appeared here, burning and blasting the ancient trees. To complicate matters further, harpies not only maintain a presence here, but seem to flourish. Corrupted treants also wander the vale, along with basilisks and even a few chimeras. I was unable to discover what causes the corruption here, but I suspect that the demons to the south and Desolace are responsible. The road to Desolace leads through this vale, and thus I suggest that inexperienced adventurers invest in a flying mount to travel over this region, rather than walking through it on foot. Now, when they say that, I think they mean in this game, because flying doesn't exist yet, I think they mean like a flight path. Greatwood Vale. This vale is one of the primary sources of Tauren activity in the Stonetalon Mountains. Two separate Tauren villages are found here, the Grim Totem Village and Camp Aparaje. Both are inhabited by the Grim Totem Tauren, a tribe of dissidents who do not share Cairn Bloodhoof's ideals of uniting the clans and instead focus on seeking retribution for the wrongs imposed on them in recent history. This approach is not popular enough to gain the support of the more numerous Tauren in the Sunrock Retreat, but nevertheless, the Grim Totem tribe has been successful in their initial attempts to cleanse the other races from the land. Malakajin. This camp, inside this troll encampment, night elves are being held by the shaman Jinzil, who seeks ingredients for his voodoo potions. I picked off a good number of the trolls here before they noticed me, and I feel better for it. Fortunately, there aren't enough trolls here to be a great threat to the elves, or I would have put in a bit more effort. Okay. Small camp, yeah. Stonetalon Peak. This is a pretty sizable village. This forested peak is a glimpse at what the entire region looked like before the goblins and elementals arrived. Here one can find the only Alliance outpost led by a night elf named Albagorn. The elves here are assisted in their efforts to reclaim the mountains by dryads and mighty keepers of the grove. A barrow den is also located here, where some druids lie asleep, sleeping connected to the Emerald Dream. Sunrock Retreat is also a sizable village. The retreat is a Tauren-controlled outpost run by a druid named Magrin Earthbinder. A mean-spirited blood elf named Braylon Firehand also resides here, and she entices travelers to carry out acts of violence against the night elves. She harbors a special hatred for the night elf Ordanis in Ashenvale, and actively speaks of hiring a stranger to carry out Ordness's assassination. She is almost as big a bastard as Baron Rivendare, see Lands of Conflict. The other inhabitants of the retreat are concerned with discovering why elementals spring from beneath the earth in Charred Vale, and that seems like a damn good thing to look into. All of a sudden he's being profane. Windshear Crag is a large venture company operation. Windshear Crag is the hotbed of venture company activity in the mountains, and the area is swarming with dozens of machines. The most impressive of these is a unique tank-like logging machine called the Super Reaper 6000. And while the machine is used primarily for cutting wood, I have no doubt that the goblins have rigged every inch of it with some sort of explosive device. Goblin shredders, including the XT9 and XT4 prototypes, also strip the land, albeit with somewhat less speed than the Super Reaper. The area is littered with mines of both the ore-refilled and damn I stepped on kinds, excavation sites, and gyrocopter landing pads. Nearby travelers might find Ziz Physics, a goblin who works with the trade princes. Ziz works to retrieve plans that a disloyal goblin stole and sold to the venture company. And the history of the region. The Stonetalon Mountains survived the Sundering, although the cataclysmic events forever altered the landscape, creating great canyons and valleys within the mountain ranges. The indigenous Tauren created a camp south of Mirkfallen Lake, built upon the ancient ley lines. It is perhaps due to these ley lines that the elementals are drawn to the area around Charred Vale. The arrival of the other races is a recent development. The goblins found the region an excellent place to harvest lumber and ore, and the majority of the modern night elf presence in the mountains exists simply to stop the continuing deforestation. While the night elves had settlements in the mountains in ancient times, only the druids remained there continuously over the years, resting safely in their barrow dens. Recently, rumors have arisen about a massive series of tunnels beneath the peak, which served as the home for some kind of oracle or sage. The name Medivh has been mentioned, but I personally find the chances of him staying in the caverns here to be minimal, but still a possibility. And here's an adventure hook. The primary source of activity here revolves around the goblins destroying the forest, but other opportunities for adventure exist in the mountains as well. And here's the adventure A Sage's Warning. A mysterious prophet emerges from the caverns beneath Stonetalon, claiming that the world must prepare itself for a new threat. The sage calls for the extermination of the Forsaken on the grounds that they will be the ones to usher in the next coming of the Burning Legion, and perhaps Sargeras himself. He sends the PCs on a number of anti-Forsaken missions if they listen, but if the PCs investigate the issue thoroughly, they discover that the sage is actually an agent of they say Balzanar, but it's really Balnazar, the brother of the Dreadlord Varimathras. Balzanar survived his death at his brother's hands, and has plotted his revenge against Sylvanas ever since. The sage is apparently just one small part of his plan. Yeah, that's a typo. Since it's repeated twice, they obviously, they were just confused. Okay, so, yeah, that's a nice zone, and it really hasn't changed a ton. the quest lines, I think, have focused in they're I'd say moderate change. If we kind of look back at some of the other ones, like Orgrimmar doesn't change a lot other than who's the ruler. Same thing, we're going to come up on Thunderbluff. Not a lot changes there, nor in Mulgore, but there are some areas that really did change a lot. Okay, everyone, I thank you so much for listening and tuning into another episode of Lore of Warcraft, and I hope that you enjoyed it. We only have 4 left until we start playing World of Warcraft. This episode is in the pipe, 5 by 5, and I look forward to seeing everybody next time.